This isn't House of Cards, this is reality. Although sometimes the truth can be stranger than fiction. Regardless of what side of the tracks you fall on politically, there seems to be some agreement. Expanded rail service to Roanoke and beyond looks like a good idea. Well, here at the Lakeview Amphitheater, crews are getting things into gear for this weekend's big event. Well, the annual 4th of July parade just kicking into gear behind me. I don't care how old you are, that is awesome.
One of the biggest developments in the Roanoke community is the planned arrival of rail service for the first time in 40 years, a product of its neighbors' success.
Right now, Lynchburg service is about 84,000 people. It's actually one of the most successful stations in the Amtrak system.
Lynchburg's been really big, so Roanoke is a natural extension. People are really banging down the doors to get that service.
The service would connect the city with other regions of Virginia, D.C. and beyond, but that service reportedly will cost millions of dollars, and that could be a snag.
As the Trump administration considers potential funding cuts for transportation projects, should the Roanoke region be concerned about the future of Amtrak?
The president has a budget that makes dramatic cuts to Amtrak. And although Amtrak hasn't said for sure, if they get huge budget cuts, one of the first things they would probably do instead of cutting existing routes is they would delay expansion so that it can affect Roanoke.
Does Roanoke really need rail service?
Public transportation also requires that not only do you have the money, but there has to be a population that actually feeds into it in a way that makes sense.
I mean, it's a good point. There's got to be a need there, and we've done the research, and there is a need there.
Just because you live in rural Virginia, that doesn't mean that you're any less deserving of access to a transportation network than any other American.
We need to work with local districts and we need to work with state legislatures in order to find meaningful solutions.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we fight for a robust Amtrak budget.
The budget battle begins when Congress returns to Washington in September. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jon Cerio, WFXR News. Kira Reel Muto does the sort of things a typical teenager would do.
I swim, I play soccer, I ride my bike.
But she isn't your typical teenager.
I do everything a normal kid would do. I just watch what my blood sugar is when I do it.
She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 8 years old.
It's been hard, but I think it's made a positive impact.
Kira decided to take a summer trip to the nation's capital to make her voice heard and to tell her story in the halls of Congress.
She's one of about 160 young people selected by the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation as a member of its Children's Congress. Their goal? Secure funding for type 1 diabetes research. They testified before a Senate committee.
How many of you wear a collar? Look at that.
And I'm convinced that together we can turn type 1 into type none.
Then Kira and her dad hit congressional offices, talking to representatives to push for funding.
I'm here to ask you to continue to fund the special diabetes program.
Good. Well, we'll definitely be supportive of that.
At the end of the day, there was a sense of accomplishment.
So you think you made some progress? Awesome.
There's a lot at stake for the Reel Muto family. Kira's father, Mark, has type 1 diabetes as well.
She'll get on my case every now and then when Dad isn't doing the right thing.
He listens sometimes.
Yeah. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jon Cerio, WFXR News.